This concept also extends to the addiction to content consumption that I feel like has our society in a chokehold these days. And this is something that I realized again since I've been home for these past 2 weeks and I've had a lot of free time to just kind of relax and chill. I do need to obviously just because I'm like off from work, it doesn't mean that there's no work to be done. Like there's a lot of work to be done actually in my life, in my personal life. There's a lot of paperwork, taxes to be filed. You guys know the drill. Anybody who is an adult knows how much of a drag adulting can be. But I'm giving myself a grace period to just chill, right? And get my mental faculties together. But over these past 2 weeks, naturally, since I found myself with a lot more free time and since I gave myself permission to kind of relax and go with the flow, I naturally found myself consuming a lot of content on my part. And I love YouTube. I've been a watcher of YouTube longer than I have been a content creator. And I've been doing this channel seriously for the past like 6 years now. I can't believe it's been that long. But even before that, I was one of the first people to ever sign up for YouTube, I believe. When was the inception of YouTube? Was that 2004? Okay, yeah. YouTube was founded on February 14th, 2005 by Steve Chen, Chad Hurley, and Joaid Karim, 3 former employees of PayPal. So I created my YouTube channel in 2006, the Strawberry Lowly channel. I've had that username since I was 16, like a junior in high school. And so I have been in these YouTube streets, okay? I've been here since the inception. I am a OG consumer of YouTube. But I found myself, same thing with my FOMO, like manic obsessive, gotta buy this, gotta buy the new release, the newest hottest, the newest palette. That same frenzy that I found myself in over the new holiday makeup releases, I found it happening in parallel to my social media consumption as well, meaning that the algorithm would feed me all of these new creators. I would just fall down a rabbit hole, binge watching each of them. To their credit, there's a lot of amazing creators on this platform. There's a lot of super articulate people with amazing insights on all of the topics that I personally am interested in, which range from, hypergamy to femininity content, how to escape the 9 to 5, how to be a solopreneur. Like my interests run the entire gamut. Manifestation, that's another big one. So the algorithm is feeding me an endless stream of content being pumped out on the daily by all these new creators. And I find myself like in a never ending race trying to watch all of them and keep up with every single new intriguing video that is served up to me or suggested to me in my homepage or what's it called, the suggested page. Again, I started to get this unsettling feeling like
something is not right. Something is quite wrong.
Wait, what am I really looking for here? And is this really serving me? Or is it just keeping me in one place? Because I started to get that strange feeling of I'm just on a hamster wheel at this point. I feel like I'm learning something new. This is the tricky part, right? This is the mind F that happens when you get stuck in this cycle of overconsumption and you lose sight of what it is that your soul actually needs to feel fulfilled, feel some sort of accomplishment in life. So I found myself like watching this new video, that new video. I would add all these videos to my watch later list. I would open up like 10 different tabs, like, oh, this one looks interesting. Wow, that topic, I've never heard of anyone phrase it that way before. So let me open that in a new tab and save it for after I watch this video. But then I would find that it was a never-ending endeavor. Like I would never be able to catch up or finish watching every single video that crossed my path. There was no end in sight, right? Because that's the way it's designed. All these creators are trying to keep themselves relevant. They're trying to keep their channels in the algorithm. So in a sense, like myself included, everyone is playing the same game. Everyone's pumping out new content. Yes, a lot of them contain gems and they're putting out quality content consistently, but the never-ending nature of it was what was kind of unsettling to me. And then again, I had an epiphany that this is the exact same realization I came to with my, makeup shopping obsession or just shopping for physical items in general. It's the exact same thing when it comes to content consumption. You know how, especially in the earlier days of YouTube, people would use shocking clickbait, is what it was called back in the day. They would use clickbait in order to draw viewers in, right? Or today, I guess the more common term would be rage baiting. Like they will purposely talk about a controversial issue or a controversial celebrity, the newest celebrity scandal that broke. Everyone who has a channel that centers around celebrity drama and things of that nature, or like drama channels, back in the day in the makeup community, there would always be channels waiting for whenever the next scandal would break out so that they could hop on the trending scandal, which was a trending topic at the time, which in turn would generate a lot of views and a lot of attention for themselves. But I realized that that type of rage baiting, it's kind of scary because the more that we move forward into the future, like the more that all of these social media platforms mature, the more subtle the rage baiting becomes. So nowadays, it's not so much clickbait. I mean, there are still channels that still blatantly use that tactic of generating controversy, talking about controversial topics in order to keep their channels and their content relevant. But now I see more and more the rise of creators that center their content or their channels around seemingly intellectual or abstract philosophical subjects and discourses centered around social issues, issues that a certain race deals with, things that seem like, okay, yes, this does have value. There is value in, creating a space, creating a channel, a community for people to discuss those issues. But at the same time, I noticed that at the end of the day, they're basically still using the same tactics as those clickbaiters did back in the day. It's just a lot more insidious now. It's a lot more subtle. It's basically like instead of using good old fashioned rage bait, now these newer, more evolved creators are almost like intellect baiting people, right? With their video essays and their deep dives. But it's still, at the end of the day, just another form of attention farming, ultimately. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So, for example, I follow a lot of channels that talk about, hypergamy, right? So Shira 7 is the most obvious one, but because of the popularity of Shira 7, like her message to women to not give everything to a man, to make sure that you are compensated fairly or that you get what you want out of your relationship with a man without giving yourself away to a guy for free. That type of a message. There's like a whole wave of new content creators that came after Shira 7 that basically modeled their entire social media brand on that same topic in that same realm. And I realized that, like, okay, at the end of the day, it's fine if you consume that content and then, you take it with a grain of salt and you take the wisdom that those creators put out in their content and you apply it to your everyday life, right? Like, for example, if you've had bad luck with dating Dusties in the past and then you discovered Shira 7 or you discovered all these hypergamy content creators that are putting you on game on how to deal with men in a way that benefits you, what types of men you should date in order to make sure that you benefit from your relationships. If you were to just watch that content once and then take what you learned and apply it to your real life, I think that's the right way to go about it. But I feel like that is not the case with the majority of viewers of those types of channels. I guess I'll just use hypergamy channels as an example, but this could go for any niche, right? Financial freedom niche or, political commentary. It's kind of disturbing to me, but there's the rise of a lot of nihilistic thinking as well, I feel, or maybe it's just what's being recommended to me for whatever reason. Like I found myself in a weird section of YouTube where there's like, okay, even within the hypergamy niche, like the male female dating advice, there's different camps, right? There's like the decentering men camp, but then there's also like, oh, there are good men out there, but you just have to make sure that you polish yourself to become the type of woman that can attract a high caliber men. There's like different factions within the larger hypergamy umbrella. I just have a nagging feeling. I wish I was wrong, but I don't think I am, that a lot of the people that consume that type of content, they are not actually taking the advice or the information that is being presented in this content and applying it to their everyday lives. What keeps them coming back to those channels, to that content is, again, this like almost addiction, I would say, to that type of content. Channels that talk about narcissists and how to deal with a narcissist, how to avoid narcissists, channels that center around that topic as well, I feel like also falls under this umbrella. And the creators of those channels, I have to say, or the creators of that type of content, I think they know what they're doing. I don't doubt that there's a lot of people out there with good intentions that actually want to help their audience. They do want to, put their audience on game or help their audience avoid narcissists. But you have to think, like, if somebody is centering their entire channel on how to avoid a narcissist, every other video that they put out is like 5 signs that you're dealing with a narcissist or 10 ways to disarm a narcissist. I can't say for sure, like, not to be cynical, but don't you think that person has basically caught on to the fact that this topic of narcissism or how to deal with a narcissist, it draws a lot of attention, right? There's a lot of people out there that are addicted to talking about narcissists for whatever reason, or they're obsessed with, maybe they had a run-in with a narcissist in their life and they're not healed from it. So that wound that has not been healed yet keeps them coming back to this content over and over again. But the problem is that the content never stops, right? Because that's how the creator makes their bread and butter. They have to keep on putting out new videos, new angles from which to look at narcissists. But then it's kind of a paradox because instead of helping the person who has been victimized by a narcissist in the past, which I would assume that that is their pure intention, instead of actually helping that person, more often than not, it just keeps that person coming back to this content in a never-ending cycle. Because that person, somewhere within them, they're like so obsessed with the idea of, getting back at a narcissist that wronged them in their past or outsmarting the next narcissist that they run into. They're so obsessed with this idea because they're so unhealed from their past trauma that they just keep coming back to this content and consuming it over and over again, but they're not moving forward in their life. They're not actually achieving any real healing. And that's the part that is kind of disturbing to me. And I realized, like, literally mid video, I was watching, okay, so there's this one, I don't want to name names. I watch a broad spectrum. I like to watch people with differing viewpoints, right? I like to hear different sides of the argument so that I can get as much of an overview as possible of all of the angles at looking at a certain situation. And then after I hear everybody's arguments, I like to take all of the information that I learned and decide for myself ultimately what I believe. So that means that, for example, when it comes to like relationship content or how to attract a high value man, that type of a content, I will listen to those creators that come from it from a more optimistic viewpoint, like reassuring their viewers that there are good men out there. There are high caliber men that are faithful, they don't cheat, and they still want to do the traditional thing and provide for a woman, provide for their family, that kind of thing. I listen to those creators as well as the ones that are a little more nihilistic in their thinking. So there's also another camp of creators, women that warn other women about, don't put your trust into a man, don't be naive, don't believe in fairy tales. This is the true nature of men. They don't actually know how to love. They're all wounded, or like 99% of the male population is actually secretly jealous or predatory when it comes to females. Like, I listen to both, right? So that I can get a balanced viewpoint so that I never swing too far into one direction. I think avoiding radicalism is a key thing here, for me at least. I try to do my best to avoid falling into a radicalist ideology whenever especially if I'm researching like something new, some area that I'm not completely decided on yet. It's important to listen to different sides of an argument, listen to different viewpoints so that you can gain a balanced perspective. That makes you less susceptible to, again, falling into somebody else's radical ideology or being recruited without your knowledge, and before you know it, you're in a cult. That's a whole other discussion, but yeah, anyway. But when I think about it though, when I think about it, both sides are doing the same thing. That's the unsettling realization that I came to. So both sides are playing to their audience essentially. In a way, you could say that everyone, almost every person in the social media game right now, especially the ones that are doing content around more like social issues, spiritual type work, inner work, manifestation. In a way, you could say that they're all grifters because they appeal to the audience that is drawn to them has some sort of wounding or some sort of unfinished business within their spirit that keeps them coming back to this content over and over again because it's like a comfort space. It's like a comfort food almost. Let's say that you are overweight, or let's say that you just want to get more fit, you want to lose 10 pounds, you want to achieve the body of your dreams by summertime so that you can wear that really nice bikini. And you also just want to feel good about yourself, right? Let's say that you are tired of feeling lethargic and living a sedentary lifestyle. So you want to make a change to your entire lifestyle, including your eating habits, so that you feel more energized and you can get more out of your life experience from day to day. Because if you feel better, if your energy levels are higher, then by natural extension, you will enjoy your day to day life better. But instead of being able to get to that point, you keep turning back to your comfort food of like a huge serving of, I don't know, chicken Alfredo pasta, right? Because that's your weakness. That's what you have historically always turned to every time the going gets tough, or every time you find yourself demotivated, you just turn to your comfort food. You eat an entire deep dish pizza by yourself. And then you feel horrible the next day, but it's a hard habit to break because it feels so good in the moment. It's like that instant gratification. I feel like that is what's happening here with a lot of the content that's being pumped out on social media these days, because you have to remember that at the end of the day, all creators are working a job too. I saw a couple of videos recently with the title "Content creation is the new 9 to 5," and that gave me chills because I knew, without even watching the video, I knew exactly what they were talking about. I feel it as well. Even as a relatively small time creator with not that many followers, I too feel sometimes like I'm in a hamster wheel. The difference, of course, between this and a corporate job that I have no interest in and I don't want to commute to an office is that I personally do enjoy making videos. I enjoy articulating my thoughts, and, I enjoy doing deep dives on topics that are of personal interest to me. And I enjoy the satisfaction of being able to reach a lot of people, or being able to reach, the intended audience of a particular video or topic that I put out. But it's starting to, I feel like year by year, it's starting to uncomfortably mirror some of the not so great aspects of like a regular traditional 9 to 5 as we know it, like a corporate job, going into the office every day, because the cycle of content creation, it just gets quicker and quicker every year. And I feel like nobody can keep up. When you factor in AI as well, I mean, there's also a theory called the dead internet theory, right? Which is, I forget the exact statistics, but don't they theorize nowadays that like 90% of the information and the content out there on the internet is generated by AI? The content itself is generated by AI, but then also the people, the users interacting with it are bots as well. So it's just a bunch of robots, like non sentient beings, ping ponging off of each other. It's a real issue, I think. I mean, I need to do more research on it because I can't really speak to it in too much detail right now. But even just intuitively, I feel like that is what's happening. So yeah, like I'm not calling every content creator an opportunist or a grifter or anything, but I don't know, in a sense, that argument could be made though, because like I said, there are people that put out quote unquote like high vibrational content. So for example, if you take a channel that is focused on helping people get to financial freedom, step by step guides on how to set up multiple income streams, or videos about how to make money in your sleep, how to set up passive income streams. That's the type of video that you would expect from a personal finance or a financial freedom channel. But then on the other hand, let's say, what do people normally consider to be low vibrational? Okay, so probably, I mean, I would say, for example, those channels that focus on narcissists, right? Or the ones that are like, it seems like they're well intentioned because it seems like they are telling you the warning signs of, okay, avoid these types of people, avoid narcissists, avoid people that are drama queens, right? Or like there's a lot of videos that are recommended to me lately about how to navigate the world as a pretty girl, right? If you have pretty privilege, like make sure that you don't do ABCD. Beware of fake friends so that they don't sabotage you because they're jealous of you because you're pretty. Like there's so much content like that. So many videos centered around that topic. So you could say that that is kind of like low vibrational, right? Because it's centered around something negative at the end of the day. Like, why are you thinking about narcissists? Why are you giving so much mental bandwidth to people that are jealous or are trying to sabotage you? Why don't you just focus on making connections with genuine people? But then, I don't know. Me personally, I am not a fan of hierarchical thinking. So, yes, like in the practical sense, I want to limit the amount of toxic or low vibrational content that I consume just because it doesn't put me in a good mental headspace, right? Like, I don't want to walk through the day having all these negative drama filled thoughts swimming through my head. I would rather, if I had a choice, yeah, I would rather think about something quote unquote high vibrational, such as how to achieve financial freedom. I'd rather think about how to achieve my goals, right? Okay, how can I achieve my goal of living in Dubai? How can I achieve my goal of earning a certain amount of money every month? Of course, that would be more beneficial for me to have those types of thoughts. However, I just feel like, how do I explain this? If the outcome of me consuming either type of content is that I stay stuck in one place instead of like taking action and actually implementing the advice that I hear from those creators or from that content, if I end up just consuming the same type of content over and over again, regardless of whether it's high vibrational or low vibrational, if the end result is that I stay in one place and I just consume this content day in and day out, then I would say that it's a moot point whether I'm being high vibrational or low vibrational. I'm still staying in one place, right? And that's what I'm getting at here is that I feel that a lot of this content is designed to keep us in one place so that we keep coming back for more. And that in turn will continue the cash cow for these creators. It's kind of like when, when actors or no, that's not a good analogy. It's kind of like, okay, if an exotic dancer, a stripper, or someone that dances in the clubs for money, and she most of her money comes from tips from the patrons that come watch her dance. And let's say that she dances semi-nude sometimes. Maybe in her head, she wants to differentiate herself from, let's say, just a out and out prostitute or S worker, right? And so it's kind of like an exotic dancer trying to differentiate herself from a straight up S worker, someone that sleeps with men for money, by saying that, well, I'm above the S worker. Like I'm above the woman that sleeps with men for money because I don't actually share my body with these men for money. Like I'm just dancing, okay? I'm just providing aesthetic stimulus, but I'm not the same as an S worker that actually engages in those activities. Or it's like a Hollywood actress that agrees to do nude scenes or sex scenes, comparing herself with an adult video actress, right? Like, okay, well, the Hollywood actress could argue I'm better than an adult video actress because I'm not actually engaging in those acts with, the male actors. I'm only simulating sex acts on screen for the sake of art. But you could make the argument though that what's the difference? Both of you are selling yourselves under the system of capitalism. And so that's the stance that I tend to take. I'm not saying that a traditional actress who is just doing simulated sex scenes for a mainstream movie, I'm not equating that to an adult film actress, obviously, but I do take somewhat of an issue with that film actress placing herself above the adult film actress in her mind, like justifying to herself that somehow what she is doing is on a morally superior ground than what the adult film actress is doing, if you know what I mean. That type of hierarchical thinking, I'm not a fan of. So, like, for me personally, right, in a sense, I'm doing YouTube, which means that that requires me to come on video. So, in a sense, it's like I'm selling myself. You could say I'm whoring myself on video for my viewers through my live streams, through my pre-recorded videos. Obviously, it's not the same thing as what an adult film actress is doing on camera, but the thing is that, like, I choose to do YouTube, right? I don't choose to act in porn, for example, or do OnlyFans, let's say. I think that would be a more comparable equivalent to me being just a regular YouTuber. Not because I think I'm better than the actresses in those types of videos, but because it's just a matter of strategy for me. I personally don't want to deal with the stigma, okay, of appearing nude or, doing something more controversial online than what I'm doing now. Like, I'm picky about the type of content that I put out. I want to be very mindful of the type of content I put out. I want to be authentic, but I also have to be careful what I say, right? Because we know that cancel culture is also very rampant and ruthless these days. But I don't place myself above an S worker, okay? I don't place myself above a cam girl that gets naked on camera. I don't place myself above an OnlyFans model. I just choose for myself personally not to take those routes because I personally don't want to deal with the social judgment that comes with that route. But it has nothing to do with, like, I don't think that that speaks to my inherent value as a human being, or like my morality being higher somehow than an OnlyFans girl. That hierarchical thinking is something that I reject. Because if you really want to get to the root of it, where did that type of hierarchy thinking stem from? It came from the patriarchy. Like, that is the institution that is responsible for triangulating us all in this way. So, in the example that I'm exploring here about an OnlyFans female creator versus just a regular YouTube female creator, right? Like someone who reviews makeup the way that I do on my channel sometimes, who benefits from those two women arguing over who is better or which one stands on a morally superior high ground as defined by the rules of the patriarchy? Who benefits from that? It's not the women, it's the people in power under the patriarchy, which would be the men. So that's exactly what they want us to do. They know that we would be too powerful if we all band together, and that's why they need to create these artificial rules and measures by which, they triangulate women against each other in society. And so many women play right into this trap. It's so frustrating. And I feel like a lot of people get it conflated. They let their ego get in the way and they really buy into this idea that they're better than somebody else because of XYZ. Like, we're both here on YouTube making content, but I'm better because I don't use clickbait or I don't talk about low vibrational things. I only talk about how to manifest your dream life. Therefore, I'm a better person, or I'm like more noble than somebody that is making videos all centered on how to scam men out of their money. I don't know. Will Smith don't got a cuss in his rap to sell records. Well, I do. So him and you too. Like, yeah, let's take the dating coach niche, for example. The coaches that are focused on helping women polish themselves up so that they can attract an elite high quality men, like, okay, you need to be classy, you need to do this and that, like, you can be sexy but don't show too much skin because higher caliber men are attracted to classy women. Those coaches, I feel like they think, a lot of them, not all of them, but I feel like a lot of them think that, or they would like to place themselves above the type of coach that coaches sugar babies, for example, right? They think that, okay, well, those sugar baby coaches, like they are doing low vibrational work because they're teaching women how to scam men, or they are focused on the wrong thing, right? They're teaching women how to benefit financially from men. But I'm doing something more noble though. I'm also coaching women on how to get into relationships with wealthy, high caliber men, but I'm different, okay? I'm not teaching women how to be sugar babies. I'm teaching them how to be wives. It's like at the end of the day, from a third party perspective though, both of you, I can say one of two things. I can say either both of you are grifters doing the same thing. You're teaching women how to get what they want in life, right? As a third party objective viewer. But then if I were to say that, I think the ego of, let's say, the elite dating coach would come into play and they would probably give me pushback like, no, 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 don't group me in with the sugar baby coaches. I'm different from them. Like, I'm not teaching women how to scam men, right? I am teaching them how to become a wife. But it's like, okay, that's a subjective viewpoint though. You of course would like to think of yourself that way, but from my third party viewpoint though, you and the sugar baby coach are kind of doing business in the same vein. Like you're both teaching women how to be smart in their interactions with men and how to benefit from relationships with men rather than, getting themselves in vulnerable situations. So to me, it's like I refuse to place one above the other because at the end of the day, who's the ultimate judger of the value of the work that you do? The ultimate judge is your customer, right? Or it's the market, because we're talking about plain and simple economics here. That's just something that's been weighing heavy on my mind lately. And yeah, it's perplexing. Like it's a conundrum. I don't know. I need more time to mull over this. But what I will say now, I don't have a solution to everything. I think again, we're all kind of mandated to participate in this capitalistic system or else we wouldn't be able to survive otherwise. They say everyone has to basically whore themselves out under capitalism. That's why I say that I reject hierarchical thinking because I don't think that somebody who is in like a high paying respectable corporate job, I don't think that they're doing anything more noble or more legitimate than a straight up S worker or lady of the night who's doing the oldest profession known to man. I feel like both of them, in my eyes, both of them are just doing the same thing. Like they're equal in this capitalistic system. They're both pawns just doing what they have to do, using their respective talents to make a living, right? That's kind of everyone's plight, I feel like. The plight of the 99%, if you will, under capitalism. So I don't have the solution to that larger issue, obviously, but I do have what my intuition is telling me right now. The immediate action that we can all take is exactly that. Take action in your life. Take baby steps, right? So you don't have to see the final destination immediately. You don't even have to know, yeah, you don't have to know exactly what your final destination is going to be, but your intuition, I believe, will tell you the general direction that you should be going in. And I think if you just take one baby step towards that every single day or at whatever pace that you can manage, eventually you will find yourself on the right path. And the more steps that you take, the more concrete action that you take in your own life, the more confidence that you'll build, and the less you will feel tethered to all of these sources of distraction, honestly, because that's what they are, right? Whether it's shopping for physical items or whether it's consuming endless videos about how to attract a high quality man or consuming endless videos about, I don't know, what else is trending, how to level up, right? Decentering men. That's another thing. Oh my god. So the decentering men faction is growing at a rapid pace. I feel like there's so much content now talking about decenter men, go child free, like even if you're married to a man, you should decenter him because of XYZ. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I don't have an opinion one way or another. I mean, I do feel like every person, especially for women this day and age, it's important for us to center ourselves. We definitely should not be basing major life decisions on a man or trying to get the attention of a certain man. We should definitely be pouring 99% of our energy into ourselves. Yeah, like focusing on our own education, building up our own skills and our own social status. That part of the message for sure, I am 100% in agreement with. I just find it super interesting though how we named it the decentering men movement. So it's almost like you're not decentering them though because you name them in the movement. It's kind of like an overcorrection. It's kind of like the lady doth protest too much because if you really were decentering men, why would you have to mention that you're decentering men? Why wouldn't you just focus on yourself? Do you notice how the male equivalent of this movement, which started much earlier than the female decentering men movement, by the way, the male equivalent of it is MGTOW, right? Men going their own way. That's a community that has been around on the internet for a long time now. But it's just so interesting to me that men going their own way, they don't mention women in the name of their actual movement. Do you see what I'm getting at? Like they name themselves. They say that we are men and we're just going to go our own way, whatever that means for each individual member of that community, whether it be, ignoring women altogether, or there's another name for it too. It's not just MGTOW. There's like the Sigma male movement, right? I don't know exactly what it means, but I think it's like you're an alpha male, but you choose to opt out of the societal expectations of an alpha male. So instead of acquiescing to the societal pressure and expectation to be a leader and be a provider in your community, basically you're just going to operate like a lone wolf, right? So you're not a beta, you're not like weak or anything, but you're just going to go your own way essentially. So they have two names for their movement, men going their way and Sigma male. Notice how neither of those mention women. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that they're still projecting, like they're still obsessed with women because the movements sprang out in the first place out of their frustration at not being able to attract the attention of women. But do you notice how like at least they're making it clear in their messaging that they actually are decentering women, whereas the women, I feel like the decentering men movement is much obviously more reactive because you literally name the men in your movement, which by definition means that you're not decentering them. It's such a mind fuck. Like, yes, this is a great reminder. Consume a little, act and embody the new insight, and then consume a little more and apply to your life again, rather than consume too much with no action. Absolutely. You summed it up perfectly. You summed up in like 2 sentences what I've been going around in circles for the past 30 minutes trying to explain. But I just think it's so interesting how the new decentering men movement, it's caught on like a wildfire, and there's so many new creators that are gaining like tons of subscribers, pumping out content, and they're very very, again, well articulated. They articulate their points very well in their videos. I enjoy listening to their insights, but then by the time I find myself on like the 10th decentering men video that I've been just listening to unconsciously in the background of my life for the whole day, I'm like, wait a minute. I literally just spent like the past 24 hours playing decentering men content, which means that by default, I've kind of been centering them in a way, right? Well, yes, that makes sense. Instead of talking about decentering from men, we could just be talking about other hobbies and passions. Exactly. Exactly. By definition of you not only talking about decentering men, but building entire channels, building an entire community around it, doesn't that by default mean that you are to some extent obsessed with men? It's kind of like, how they say love and hate are two sides of the same coin, right? What's the actual opposite of love? Like, what is the absence of love? It's not hate. The absence of love is indifference. The absence of hate is also indifference. That's why we say that love and hate are two sides of the same coin. That's why you can go from like the most passionate, all consuming love affair with someone to divorcing them and trying to sue them for all their worth and ruin their entire life in the next breath.
I knew you would do this! I knew it!
This has happened a lot in history, right? We've seen many examples of like even couples where something goes wrong and one of them unalives the other because there's just so much emotion involved in there. That's why we say that love and hate are two sides of the same coin. The actual opposite of both of those emotions is indifference. So if you were if you actually like wanted to decenter men from your life, if you actually wanted to pour energy into yourself, you would not even make any mention of them at all. You would just go ahead and make content or create things, engage in hobbies, go to brunch with the girls based on whatever you are interested in that have nothing to do with a man. I mean, by that definition, you could say that the entire makeup beauty community, that's the actual decentering men community, because we don't talk about men at all. Like, we have a lot of allies in the form of gay makeup artists, like gay beauty content creators, that we all get along because it's not your gender, your sexual orientation is all irrelevant, right? Because we're talking about beauty in that space. We're talking about the newest makeup releases. We're slaying our face at 3 a.m. in the morning for TikTok or Instagram just because we can. I'm talking about this because I'm making this for myself as well, as a reminder to wake up, like, it's very, very easy to get hypnotized by all the distraction, all the content out there. And it's only going to get more insidious because the signs are not as obvious as they were in the past. It's not just easily recognizable rage bait or clickbait as it was in the past. No, like, nowadays it's disguised as something that is intellectual, right? Like, all these video essays, these deep dives. It makes us feel like we're really getting somewhere by consuming all this content. Like, oh, okay, last week I just exposed myself to 90 different angles and viewpoints on how to implement a hypergamous strategy when it comes to dating men. And then this week I'm on the 91st angle, right? Like, it's just, there's no end in sight. When are you going to stop looking for the next angle and the next deep dive and the next, secret trick? Say these 3 secret words and it will make any man fall to your feet. When are you going to stop consuming and actually apply something to your real life? Don't you ever find it weird that all of these so-called coaches and experts out there, most of them are single? They claim, like, they swear up and down that they have the blueprint, okay? They have the magic key. As long as you pay for their course, their $5,000 course that you can pay for in installments of $50 on this payment plan that's going to charge you 10% interest every month. As long as you pay for their never before seen one of a kind course, they're going to give you the magic words to say to make any man fall at your feet or to attract, like, a billionaire. And yet, meanwhile, where is their billionaire fiance? Nowhere to be found. Like, wake up. It's hard to realize these days because that parasocial connection, that's the real kicker these days, especially if the person is charismatic, you feel like they're your big sister, or you feel like you could be their friend in real life. That's a difficult screen to see through. It's kind of like a fog almost. It's like a spell that these people put over you. You know how they say that Beyonce uses glamour magic to enchant everyone, and that's the reason why nobody really speaks out about her, even though there's, like, a lot of shady stuff coming out regarding her and Jay-Z, especially now with the whole allegations surrounding Diddy and the fact that, like, Jay-Z was close to Diddy, and so people are questioning both him and Beyonce now for shady things that happened in connection with them in the past. And yet still there's a lot of people out there that are still brainwashed by the whole, the spectacle of Beyonce, and they think that she can do no wrong. It's kind of like that because, nowadays, like, the tide is changing to where people are not that supportive of celebrities anymore. That's why, like, there is still to this day a rise in influencers, even though the social media space is already pretty saturated. I think that there's only going to be an increase in influencers, at least in the immediate future, because people are really turning away from celebrity culture. They find it very unrelatable. They're sick of it, like, they don't feel a connection anymore to these celebrities, and they don't care to. They would rather support an influencer that feels a lot closer in proximity to them in terms of lifestyle and mindset. They would rather support someone that is more of a regular person in their minds on social media rather than an unattainable celebrity that has a lifestyle that they could never relate to anyway, right? But, like, on the flip side of that, as I was saying this whole time, it makes you even more susceptible to that parasocial connection, that bond. That's gonna make it 10 times harder for you even to disconnect from that person, whatever your influencer of choice happens to be. At some point, like you said, Abichi, you have to step back and prioritize your own life, live your own life. Or like if you really are inspired by somebody, or you find a influencer or a coach or whoever that their teachings and their wisdom really resonates with you, that's totally fine. But you have to make sure that at some point, or periodically, preferably it's a constant reminder, that you tell yourself to consume a little bit, but always take a step back and ask yourself, okay, now how can I really implement this in my day-to-day life to benefit myself? Because at the end of the day, that should be your focus. It should be yourself. It should not be like a sitting duck, or like waiting around for the next influencer, the next product, the next movie, ideology, what have you, to take your attention away. Because this is another thing that you've probably heard before many times, but attention is the new currency, right? It really is. It truly is. We're living in an energy sucking matrix these days. I don't know how else to phrase it. Everybody is vying for your attention because they know that that is where the money is to be made. And the competition for people's attention is only going to get more and more intense, and it's going to get more sophisticated, more insidious. You have to keep your eyes and ears open. You can't lose sight of your own true purpose on this earth, which is self-actualization. And I feel like so many people, myself included, right? It's a constant barrage that we face every day. So, it's not easy, but there are ways to stay grounded. There are ways to protect your energy. You have to constantly like draw the attention back to yourself. And I feel like the only solution is that you become conscious of it and you implement more and more hard techniques every day to preserve your own energy and to protect your own peace. You have to find a way to draw that energetic barrier for yourself, or else you're just going to be another one of the sheep in the crowd that the system, the matrix, is going to mine you for all of your energy until the day that you leave this earth. And then it's like, what a shame that would be, that you could have spent your time on this earth actually doing what your soul wanted to do, but instead, you allowed yourself to get distracted the whole time until your time was up. Now, that went a lot deeper than I thought it was going to be, but I'm very satisfied with this discussion. I feel like I want to make more videos about this. Another important thing, I think a more effective way to gain knowledge, like to download all of the knowledge that you're looking for, and to make sure that you actually go ahead and implement it in your own life, rather than just get sucked into the constant like cycle of new regurgitated reiterations of the same thing over and over again that the algorithm is going to feed you. I think the safer way to do it is to read books.
Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow.
Reading has been around since the dawn of time, right? Going back to reading books, it sounds very simple, but sometimes the simplest, most traditional ways are the most effective. That's why these techniques have been around for so long, right? That's why reading has been a thing for so long, even with the development of the technology age, even as we're moving into the age of AI. I mean, books themselves are being written now by AI, and people are selling them as if they wrote it themselves. However, I feel like it's still, in the future, AI is only going to get more sophisticated, so I don't even know how it's going to look in the future. But as of now, at least, I can tell you that when I read something written by AI versus what's written by an actual human, I can tell the difference immediately. As humans, we still have that discernment within us. It's not going away. Like, this is something that has been ingrained in our species. It's like a sixth sense that we've had for generations upon generations. So we just need to tap into it. And I think, again, one of the best ways to do it is, if you're not, I'm not saying that you shouldn't consume content anymore. Like, this is a part of our daily lives now. This is just part of our lifestyles now. And I myself love social media. I love consuming other creators' content. I love riffing off of the discussions that other people are having. I don't see anything wrong with that per se, but when it comes to the point where, again, I find myself like stalling in my actual life, not really getting anywhere with my goals, that's when I feel like, okay, it's time to take a step back and go back to basics, go back to the traditional method of reading books. When you read a book, that gives you kind of a nice protective buffer. It gives you the time that is necessary to digest the information that you just read, which will then give you the space to naturally move towards, okay, now let me take action by implementing, this new nugget of information that I learned from this book. That is the beauty of good old-fashioned reading, because yeah, again, it gives you that, like, it's a more natural pace, I think, for us. It's a more natural process to, like, read a book and then, take some time to download and digest all of the information in there. And then if the information in that book resonated with you, then naturally you will start, like, making a game plan, implementing the strategies that you just learned to further yourself in a certain goal or area of your own life. Whereas when you're consuming content on social media in particular, that's very distracting, right? Because then you have the added element of maybe you have a parasocial relationship with that creator. So it's not just that you're consuming the content, you also feel this kind of like kinship with the creator. And, it can get confusing, right? Because now your attention is not just focused on gaining this new piece of knowledge to help yourself in your life. Now you're getting distracted by, oh my God, I feel like this person is an older sister to me. And then now you feel like, okay, maybe if you're particularly stressed and you want to have some human connection, you find yourself like sending them super chats during their live streams and whatnot, which there's nothing wrong with, right? Like, by the way, my super chats are open if you want to ever support my channel. Like, there's nothing wrong with any of that. There's nothing wrong with joining a community online based on an ideology or an interest that you have. But like I said, the distractions are too much, It's overload for our human brains. Like, we have not evolved yet to be able to handle all these distractions while still staying on the path of what we're supposed to do, like, for ourselves. And so that's why I say that I think reading books is a good way to kind of scale back, step back, and cut out all the noise. That way you can just go straight to the information and do what you got to do to move forward in your own life. So when it comes to content, I would say, temper your consumption. But if that is even too difficult, you might want to take like just a straight up 1 week or 2 week detox from social media, because it's addictive. Yeah, it's designed to be addictive. The algorithm is quite literally designed to keep you, in a cycle of consumption over and over again. And it can get very, very dark. It's not all doom and gloom. I'm not trying to say that. Like, for example, I like makeup, so the algorithm is gonna keep recommending me new makeup reviews. That's not necessarily like a bad thing, but when it comes to the area of like certain wounds that you might have from childhood, right? Like abandonment wounds, or if you dealt with a narcissistic ex before, or if you were taken advantage by men before, or if you have like, trauma and limiting beliefs surrounding money. Let's say that you grew up with humble beginnings. And so as an adult, that caused you to be like overachieving or just overly zealous when it comes to making money. Those types of wounds, they make you very vulnerable to consuming content around those topics, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But, like I said, sometimes there are bad actors out there that they don't necessarily have your best interest at heart, right? People who are running those channels, they're trying to make a living too off of their content. So that's why, like, I do follow a handful of creators where I feel like I almost trust creators more these days when I see that they're clearly not dedicated to uploading on a consistent schedule. Like, there are creators, coaches, philosophers, what have you, out there that make it a point to not upload consistently. Like, you can tell or sometimes they voice explicitly that that is not their goal. They make it clear that they're only going to come on and upload when they have something of actual importance to say, right? But aside from that, they are silent. And I found, like, more and more in recent days that I tend to trust those creators a lot more intuitively. I just feel like their words are more valuable than the creators that claim that they're here to help you overcome whatever wound or obstacle in your life, and yet they upload like clockwork every single week to make sure that they can, you know, capitalize on your attention and continue to line their own pockets. So yeah, it's a crazy new world that we're living in these days. But you know what? We're going to do what humans have always done since the beginning of time, and that is to adapt to our environment and to the changing times. We're going to adapt and thrive, but you got to center yourself and you got to learn how to cut out all the noise and keep bringing the attention back to yourself. That's all I wanted to say for today. I will leave you on that note today, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.